Welcome to the Her Voice Shines podcast, where we celebrate the power, brilliance, and resilience of women everywhere. I'm your host, Shanasia Washington. Join us as we share inspiring stories and insights from extraordinary women who have found their voice and are making a difference. Together, we'll create a ripple effect, illuminating the path to visibility and empowerment. Let's break barriers, shatter ceilings, and lift each other up. In each episode, we dive deep into the journeys of women who have turned their challenges into triumphs and their dreams into reality. Whether you're looking for motivation, guidance, or a community that understands your journey, you're in the right place. Stay tuned and remember, let your voice shine. And just like that, we're back like we never left. I'm your fabulous host, Shanasia Washington, streaming from Houston, Texas. And this is the Her Voice Shines podcast. And guess what? We're still here in the Cellblock Talk TV edition. We've been talking to this amazing women of this cast. I'm happy. You guys know that all these episodes have made me feel in a place to where I feel empowered to share their stories, empowered that they're giving themselves a voice and really, really counting themselves in. Because guess what? This is Her Voice Shines. All the voices matter. And we have another fabulous guest today. We're going to have her come to the stage, tell us her name, where she's streaming from, and I'm going to ask her some questions about her journey. And I'm just so happy to have her. Without any further ado, here she is.
Hello, everyone. It is Mayam Robinson, also known as Yummie She Funny, streaming to you live from the lovely H-Town. Okay, hey, how you doing, Sinadra?
Uh-oh, we got an H-Town heavy hitter in the house, so y'all know I'm be a little extra. Check a little extra, because that's an H-Town hottie on the platform today, and I'm so happy to have her. But we're talking about Cellblock Talk TV. You have seen how dynamic this cast is. And Yummie, I gotta ask you, let's just jump right into it. Where did your entry into the system start? Just tell us a little bit about that so that we can understand, start dissecting.
Right. No, most definitely. Yeah, my entry into incarceration started back in the early 2000s in Denver, Colorado. I was actually indicted in a federal case for organized crime. I was looking at like 30 years. Me and the guy I was dating got caught up there, and gratefully, praise to God, that I didn't have to do 30 years. I ended up getting sentenced to 36 months, and that's after I had an amazing lawyer. My mom happened to have, actually my mother's boss, brother-in-law, happened to be an attorney, a federal attorney, and that's the only thing that saved my behind. And it only took one time, one and done. I did my time, I came home, and I changed my life for the good.
Oh my gosh, that's already a kicker there, because that's one of the things that I think this show is really working hard to do, because you said it was that one hitter quitter. That's it.
That's right.
I'm not a recurring criminal. I learned my lesson. I did what I did, but I came out of that thing changed. And I never went back.
That's
Let
right.
me back it up a little bit before the entry. Do you think that there was something in your childhood or something earlier that sparked this kind of thing into the criminal system? Or where did kind of the intersection of you doing whatever it is you did and getting incarcerated, was there any early kind of indication that you could maybe go?
There was never early indication that I was going to go to jail. I was young. I had a lot of life in me, a lot of friends. But one thing I have to say, that I come from a strong foundation, a strong background. I had both of my parents growing up, and I grew up Muslim. You know, my parents came from the Nation of Islam. So I had a very, very strict household. And I think once the opportunity presented itself where I was able to get out of the house or sneak out or do anything that I knew that was forbidden for my parents, it was the environment that I entered myself into after I left my home. And that's where I was introduced with gangs, because I grew up with a lot of gang members, and a lot of gang members sold drugs. So it was almost the norm to come home from school and then do your homework and then go outside and hang with the gang members, hang on the block, hang on the corners. I remember the very first time I tried to sell some drugs. I was in this place called the East Villages in Denver, Colorado at a park. And I was with a couple of my girlfriends. And she handed me a baggie and she said, sell this. This is you right here. This bag is yours. And whatever you get off, all belongs to you. And I was nervous because I'd never done that before. And I was seeing the people around me coming from these projects looking for drugs in the state that they were in. And I knew in my heart, like, this is wrong. You ain't supposed to do this. But then the other side of me is like, ooh, you need that money because you and your sister sharing shoes. You want to get a new pair of shoes. And that's when I did my first exchange of selling drugs on the street. I've never was like a full-time drug dealer. I was what you call a professional hustler. I always had a job. I always went to school. I would have a full-time job, go to school part-time at night. And then on the late nights, I would be this other person. I would be on the streets selling drugs on the block. And that's how I got introduced to that type of lifestyle.
You know what I found interesting about that segment is that you had the conscience to do right. You know, sometimes you talk to people and they don't have that conscience to do because you were like, you asked yourself, you know, like, do I want to do this? My sister needs the shoes. So you did actually have that mental check, but then you made a decision to do what you did. So I found that in the psychology, like of the walk, because sometimes, you know, you hear women that have been incarcerated and say, well, I didn't know any other way. But in hearing you say that, you know, I had that mental check where like, I knew that this wasn't the right thing to do, but I still chose to do it, was very interesting. So that leads me to say, in terms of family, like once you got that sentence, I know that that shocked them. Or didn't.
It broke my parents' heart because they had no idea. Like I was like living a double life. You know, when holidays and birthdays and stuff come around, I would have the most extravagant gifts, you know, that were exchanged, but they thought it was from work because I've always had a job. They never had a clue what I was into, what I was doing, because I kept it totally secret. And that what hurt me the most is when I seen the look on my mom's face when she came to see me at the federal prison. And she said, man, I mean, her face was just plain broke. She was broken. She was broken. And my dad, of course, he's a man. He's a little bit more tough. And he had a past history, you know, where he was in the streets or whatever. So he kind of understood it a little bit more. But my mother let me know that it broke her heart. It did. It hurt her.
Yeah. And I think that for me is the part where I was like, oh man, it really touched me to know that because they're thinking like, this is the version of Yummie that I know. Right. Mm-hmm. And it's a whole nother side of her that we have no idea. So that process for them had to be, of course, hurtful, but then it's trying to figure out what happened, what has she been doing and why. So given that, since you've been out, how has those relationships been reconciled, or have they ever gone back to where you thought they were before they knew this? And how has that journey been on the path of reconciliation?
Well, we definitely reconciled with my parents. Unfortunately, I lost my father maybe 1.5 years, like right when I got out. I just got out of the halfway house and he was diagnosed with mesothelioma and he was dying from cancer. And I know I felt so guilty at that time. I know he forgave me, but it was more as, was he disappointed in me and the choices that I made? And before he passed, he let me know that he had forgave me. That was over with, for me not to worry about that. And that was just a big weight lifted off my heart. Because I was a daddy's girl. Mind you, I come from a family of 8, 6 girls and 2 boys. And I'm in the middle. And I'm like one of the oldest girls. So I was supposed to be kind of the example and the leader for my younger sisters. And, you know, when I did that, I know it disappointed him, but he let me know that he forgave me before he went on to that next phase of life. And my mother, she accepted me with open arms. Of course, she was just happy that I was home. Like there was nothing more that she wanted in life but for me to get home. And when I got home, it was like all was forgotten. I don't even think that we ever talked about it, to be honest with you. I think I probably talked about it more on stage doing my comedy and with my friends and other people that I was locked up with than I actually did with my actual family.
Oh, that's so powerful. That just tells me mama was just happy her baby was home. At
Mhm.
this point, I've already kind of walked mentally what's happened, but now I'm embracing my daughter again. So all that other stuff, because I got a boy in there, and you best believe, like some days it's been a day. Like just the embrace of it. When you have one,
Yeah.
sometimes that embrace, girl, it changes your whole world. And so I'm
You-
just, I'm just
You're
saying
right.
that it's probably what she felt like. My baby is home. I'm just happy to have her here. So I'm just
Yes.
happy that when you came home, I know that you didn't have your dad for a long time after that. I'm just happy that
Mhm.
you were able to come out and have some time with him after the sentence. That makes my heart feel well.
Oh yes, most definitely. Yeah.
And of course, still now my condolences, because you still look the daddy's girl like that. That
Oh
grief,
yeah. It
it
seemed
never
like
goes.
it was yesterday, when you think about it. And I've noticed myself constantly reminding sayings that he would say to me, like little quotes like, don't worry about that like that. Because I used to be a worrier. Sometimes I still worry. And sometimes that worry can make you sick, not only mentally, but emotionally sick. You know what I'm saying? Where you're just like sad from worry. And he's like, don't worry about nothing that you have no control over. And that's where that let go, let God comes in at.
That's a good one. And he giving you a word that you can sit here and do all this worrying, and it's doing nothing but weighing stress on you, the people around you, sucking your energy. When all
That's
you have
right.
to do is let it go and walk the space. And trust me, I'm preaching to myself right now, because I'll sit up
Mm-hmm.
there and I'll be up 2, 3 in the morning, girl, trying to figure out shoulda, coulda, would, and why. And I hear a voice
Right.
that says rest. Lay
Yes.
down and rest. And that's a real thing. Now,
Yes.
listen, Yummy, you very, very, I pick up this intelligence and this poise about you in this space. So, you've had these two things kind of going on prior to the sentence. You were working and then, doing what you were doing on the side. But then
Mm-hmm.
when those gates of prison closed and you figured out, I got to do some time, talk about that moment. And then also to talk about that mental resilience during the process of incarceration.
Well, I would have to say that I appreciate my attorney. He was like almost a father figure to me. He whooped my butt with his words when he found out what happened to me and how it affected my mother and my family. But one thing he told me for sure, he said, I don't care what I do, you're going to have to do some time. He said, this is a federal crime. There ain't no one and done. There ain't no spank. You get probation. He said, you're going to do some time. So I need you to wrap your head around that. He said, you ain't going to be there forever, but you're going to do some time. And I don't know, it could be 2 years, 5 years, 10, but he let me know I need to mentally be prepared that I'm going to do some time. And the crazy part about it is after I got my attorney, I was released on pretrial. And pretrial could last months, years, however long they wanted to last. And I was on pre-trial for almost a year. And I almost thought to myself, I'm not going to go to jail. Why would they want to take me to jail now? I had established a job. I was going to work. I was doing everything like a law-abiding citizen. And I just told myself, they're not going to take me. I've been out too long. That it doesn't, why would they do that? I'm working, I'm doing the right thing. No, they're not going to do that, until I got that phone call from my attorney and said that, hey, this is the deal. This is what we're going to do. And I told you to prepare yourself because you was going to have to do that time. And then he told me what my sentence was going to be. And of course, I had that big lump in my throat, trying not to cry, having to explain this to my children. Because at the time, I had 3 toddlers at home. I think my oldest daughter might have been maybe 9, 10. And that was the hardest thing for me. I mean, after I finally accepted it, because I knew I was going to have to go. I just didn't know how much time. I was just thankful to God it wasn't 30 years. It was 36 months. But I had to sit my 3 kids down, which they don't really understand at that age. They do, but they don't. I think my oldest daughter did more than the younger ones did. And I had to explain to them that I was going away. And I didn't want to do that cliche thing like, oh, she's going off to college. No, I want to be totally transparent with my children and be straight up with them because I want them to feel that they can be that way with me. And I told them, I said, you know, mommy did something wrong. And when you do wrong things, you have to pay for them. And the price that I have to pay is I have to go away. And that means away from you guys. I've never been away from my children. I've been a full-time parent since they were born, always in their life. But I let them know that mommy is going to be leaving. Mommy still loves you. Even though you don't see her, you still may hear my voice. I will write you letters, send you pictures. But I have to go and do my time for the crime that I committed. Now, I didn't get in details with them or anything, but I explained to them that was happening. I think my oldest daughter understood it more because she got sad and she kind of cried. And the other kids are kind of like, well, okay, well, call us whenever you get back. They were too young to comprehend that. And I think that was the hardest reality for me is to tell my children.
So, Yummie, did they visit you while you were locked up?
No. They didn't visit me because I was in Arizona doing time and my children were almost in Florida in this place called Dothan, Alabama, where my parents had retired from, and they were keeping my kids for me while I did this time. So I had to drive from Denver, Colorado, all the way to Dothan, Alabama, to drop my kids off to stay with my parents while I did this time.
36 months is like not a lot in terms of what could have happened in terms of the sentence, but 36 months is a lot of time away from children.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a lot, like I said, in comparison to that large number, because I think your attorney said something like he was dropping numbers 5, 10 all these years. So 36 months does seem almost like a slap on the wrist, but it's a separation for children, for sure. For sure, 3 years is a lot. We talked about the parent thing, but how was that reintegration back to parenting? Because that's like a little bit different from the dynamics of you going back home to mom and dad. What was that like being reintroduced almost to motherhood, at least actively, active motherhood?
Yeah. Oh, man, I tell you, my parents did a wonderful job. Of course, when I got out, I had to spend time at the halfway house, about 12 months at the halfway house. And they were really consistent on bringing my children to visit me on weekends. And of course, I found a job, because I went through a temp agency, found me a job that hired me. So I made sure I kept some work, but they would bring my kids to visit me every weekend so we could have that bond and reconnect again. And I have to say their support helped me get through this, just having conversations, being able to break bread with them and my parents, and answering questions that they had for me, like, well, mommy, where was you at? And what happened? And what was it like in there? And explaining all those things to them and just getting to know them again. Like, my daughter had her cycle when I was gone and I didn't get to be there for her, when she was going through that. So we were able to talk about that and the challenges that she had with that. And, my son is a chronic asthmatic. So he stays in and out the hospital with asthma and just missing being by his bedside when he was sick, and grandma had to be there. You know what I'm saying? So I was away for a little while, but not a long while. And I wanted to let them know that we can slowly integrate this relationship back into transitioning from grandma's house and then moving in with me, because I had a 1-bedroom apartment, with 3 kids. At grandma's house, they had their own rooms when I was away. But I had to explain to them that we're starting from the bottom. Mama started from the bottom and doing things the right way. So I don't never have to be out of your lives again. So they went through that struggle with me where we was crammed up in a 1-bedroom apartment and we really got to know each other well. Just catching up on old times, looking at pictures and things like that, talking about school and faith, because faith and religion is very important to me. So I wanted to make sure that me and my kids prayed together every night together and broke bread together every day. And I would ask them, how was their day at school? I would make it my business when I wasn't working to go pick them up and have that conversation with them on the way home from school and just rekindle and rebuild that bond again. Because it's not easy. It's very challenging and mentally challenging, especially when you have a little boy. So I had a son with no father, and we had a lot of behavior issues from him. And I think it could have been because of what happened to me and me not being in his life. So we had to constantly, work on that behavior issue with him. So it was a time. I have to say it was a time, but with God's grace and with a supporting family, because that's very, very important, and being able to have that peace of mind, because your mind is so powerful. You have to stay positive. You have to think positive thoughts. And I know that's one thing that I stay consistent with is like, everything is going to be okay. Everything is going to be all right.
And you know what? That's a little bit of touch of your dad coming back, right? The fact that no, it is because I listen and I'm hearing that come back around. That's a little bit of your dad's philosophy and being coming back to layer on that the fact that you can still have that little piece. I know it's a lot going on, but it's almost like a little piece of solitude and peace that you are able to kind of go back into, like within all the chaos. And then you're right, because some people, they don't know how to find it. They've never been introduced to that. So, a lot of chaos, it's a ripple effect. It's so much more chaos because they can't really get control of that mind in that space. So for me to hear you say that, it warms my heart. And I know that that is a remnant of your dad. I never met him. So I have to, I have to give back what I hear. Now let me ask you this, Yummie, because Yummie is a whole comedian out here. Okay, she's out here in Houston being a whole comedian. Let me ask you where that comedy part come in. Was that something that was always kind of in you? Where does the comedy Yummie come from? I want to hear about the comedy journey.
Oh my gosh, the comedy Yummie is a class clown. Always in the one in the back of the class, screaming out obscenities while the teacher's reading some history book or something like that, and everybody turns around and points at me and laugh. Like I was always the class clown at school. And in my family, like, it's a lot of siblings, so we always got to put on a show. Every time there's a family function or reunion, we out here performing, right? And I was always making jokes and copying people what they say and quoting movies and things like that, and just, bringing laughter to people. And I remember one time my girlfriend told me, she said, "Why you ain't never got a microphone?" And I said, "A microphone for what?" She was like, "Why don't you just start telling jokes? Get on stage and tell some jokes." I said, "Girl, ain't nobody getting on stage and telling no jokes. I can never do that." I said, "I got stage fright." No way. She was like, "Girl, just try it. You never know what might happen." And it got to the point to where I started like writing stuff down, things that would make me laugh, life experiences that were pain, and I turned it into something funny after I'm over it. And I just started writing those things down on paper. And I have a notebook that's actually coming apart. I wish I had it here so I can show you. Here it is. That I was writing my jokes, would write my jokes on this old notepad when I started falling to pieces. That I would write all my little jokes and my little thoughts and stuff like that. And one day I was at work and I told my coworker, I said, "Hey, I think I'm gonna go to improv open mic and do some comedy." She's like, "Oh, really?" She said, "If you do, let me know. I'll come and see you." And I was like, "Okay." And at that time they were doing it on Tuesday nights. I'm not sure how they're doing it now, but I told her when I left work, I said, "Hey, tonight I'm gonna go to that open mic and do some comedy. If you want to come see me, come check me out." She's like, "Okay, cool." So I get there and I done signed up on a little list here. And of course, I'm an amateur. I'm new to this, so I'm way at the bottom here. And then I see this group of people coming in the door, right? It's my coworker, and she brought like 10, 15 people with her, like it was a comedy show. And my heart just started jumping out of my chest because I'm like, "Oh my God, what is she doing?" I thought it was just going to be her. So if I screwed up, it'll just be me and her, right? Man, I tell you, I went back to my car. I had a bottle of red wine in there. I took it to the head like it was a 40. I took a little drink, put it down. I took a deep breath and I said, "Okay, you got to go and do this. You got to do it. You want to do what you want to do, what you want to say. Just stay focused and do it." I got in there, grabbed that mic, and I have to say, I think that was probably one of my best open mics that I've ever done. I had like a standing applause because we were out in the open in the bar. So people who are at the bar could hear my jokes too, and people who actually came from open mic. And they stood up and they started clapping, and I was like, "Oh I just couldn't believe it. I was like in awe, like, oh my God, these people really think I'm funny. They like really laughing and clapping and everything and giving me handshakes when I got finished and telling me how good I did. And I said, you know what? I might be onto something. I probably can do this, Brutus. And ever since then, that's what I've been doing.
Look, I love it because your coworker, look, she kind of set this plan in motion. If she didn't show up with all those 10 people, you may have not killed it like that. So, while she was, orchestrated, it was really setting up for you to get on there and do it on the spot.
Kill it.
Yeah, straight killed it. I was like, this comedy thing came on, so I can understand what was going on with that. I got to come check you out here in Houston, so you definitely got to let me know when you hit.
Yes. Oh, I would love for you to. We'll have such a good time.
Yes, of course. Now, let's talk about Cellblock Talk TV. Why did you say yes to the call of this show? I think, when I heard about the project and, I shared it with you guys, I thought it was just something that was just so energizing because even now, like seeing there was my family dynamic. I was away from my kids. It just put so much life and energy beyond the title of so that's why it was so energizing for me. And it just mirrors what I love to do. And that is give voice to women that are going to stand firm and do it. And I don't, care about the titles and all of that. So that's why this show is important. I thought for to bring you guys on, but I want to hear from you as to why you said yes and why the mission of Cellblock Talk TV is with you.
Yes, ma'am. I said yes because I felt it was something that I could connect with, dear to my heart. Doing prison time as a woman is not easy. I don't care if it's 1 month or 20 years. Us as women, we are natural nurturers. So being away from your children and your loved ones, that's not an easy task. And people rely on you to do things that only mama, auntie, grandma can do, and taking my pain that I went through being locked up and that transition of being there in that system and making it through there and not catching any other charges or, getting in any trouble and making it out on top. That's a goal. That's an accomplishment. I did my crime and I did my time and I came home and I changed my life and I never looked back. And I took that pain and I started turning it into my comedy. And I've always wanted to go and visit the prisons, but I never knew about how to go about doing it. Because I said that would be a wonderful thing if I could bring laughter to men and women who's going through this pain, going through this transition in life. You know what I'm saying? To let them know there's still light out there on the other end, to let them know that this isn't the end for them. This is temporary. You made a mistake. You know what I'm saying? And you can change who you are at any given time. It's never too late to change. You could have went there 3 times. That 4th time, maybe that's what fixed you. And this time, you're going to have the opportunity. You're going to have the tools. You're going to have the resources. You're going to have the support that you need to come home and be successful. And that's the journey that I'm on with Cellblock Talk. I want to see Cellblock Talk be able to help people transition back into this life because it's not easy out here. A lot of people feel like it's easier to be locked up than it is to be out here in the world, because you don't have all these bills and you don't have all these extra stressors on you. You know what time you're going to bed at night. You know you're going to get a meal. It's automatic. But when you get out here in this real world, you have to be that law-abiding citizen that does the right thing to not get in trouble, pay your taxes, pay your bills, take care of your family,
Yeah, for sure. And then that also too can explain why some people go back because of the pressures of the outside world and not being able to find a job and find a place and no support system. And, I've said over and over again, I'm not condoning it or giving a pat on the back for it, but I understand the psychology behind it, which is why, you have to have people that have actually walked the walk that said, I know it's hard out there. And that's why it's so important to amplify and keep talking about these things so that there are better systems. It's not just this surface level stuff, that there are things that are helping people get back and be reintegrated. So thank you so much, Yummie, for that. Now, this is the part in our show where we're going to cue to you for final thoughts. I'm going to cue over you. If somebody skims across this and they see nothing but this small segment, Yummie, I want you to give them something that represents the essence of Yummie and really her journey. Over to you for final thoughts.
Okay. Well, my final thought today would be that love is light and light is love, in that if you could just open your heart to love, you can do anything in life. You can be successful. Like I said, I'm really a spiritual person. I have a strong faith base, and being able to just humble yourself and get on your knees and ask God what you want. We're to help lead you in your path in life, because our lives are already written. That what happened to me was already part of my story, but I get to choose how it ends. And I wanted to end on the brighter, on the more positive side, doing the right thing and being a leader for those that's coming from behind me. You know what I'm saying? And being able to bring smiles to people's faces when they're feeling down. I love that. I love that. If anything that you need to know about Yummie is resilient. She's funny. She's fierce. She doesn't take no for an answer. No, I will not. And that's one thing you cannot do. Do not take. They tell you, no, you got a felony. You go somewhere else and try there. You know, you just keep on pushing. You can go through a temp agency. You don't have to go and try to get a solid job right away. You go and prove yourself, and you work wherever you need to be successful in this life. Thank you for having me, Sanadra. This has been absolutely amazing. I'm so glad you had me on tonight.
Absolutely. This space, I'm always very honored to be here, because once we get in here, we just have a conversation like we're sitting on the couch. I wouldn't have done this any other way. I just have these conversations from a pure place, because I'm literally here to experience a piece of you, because you've been willing to share it on my platform. So I don't take it lightly. So to everyone that's out there in the Her Voice Shines podcast land, I want to thank you for being a part of our podcast tonight. And I also, too, want to tell you that miraculous things happen. You've seen it here when you let your voice shine. And we'll be back in really no time.
That's right.
Another amazing woman. But until then, we're out. And we want to thank y'all again.